What's up, witches? My name is Taylor and I'm the Tempest Witch here on YouTube. Today I'm going to talk to you about mead. Over the last year I went through the process of making my first batch of mead, seeing what works best, and through some trial and error I made some that was decent. I wasn't really sure what I was expecting. I've had lots of mead before. Obviously when you go to Renaissance fairs it's kind of in abundance, but I'd never ventured into the realm of brewing my own, and it was an adventure. A lot of what I've recorded from the last year are pictures and not videos, so those are going to be stills in as I'm talking, but I figured it was just a cool experiment that I did and I wanted to share it with all of you. So I guess let's start off with what is mead. Mead is an alcohol made of fermented honey. And my parents, for whatever reason, I don't remember, they gave me a jug, like a big jug of honey. So I had an overabundance of it and I went, I'm never going to use all of this. I already have 3 other containers of honey. I guess I could try making mead. And then I thought about it for a while and I ended up making dandelion infused mead. And I gotta say, it's much better than regular mead. It adds a little bit of sweetness. Obviously mead is a sweeter alcohol, but it adds more flavor, because what I realized out of one of the batches that I made is that if you don't infuse anything into the honey, it's very bland. It doesn't taste like much, it's not very exciting. You can get through it if you need to, but it's not an enjoyable experience to drink. So from that I realized that putting other flowers like violets maybe, or lilacs into the mead might be a great idea. Gonna probably venture into that this year. As a disclaimer, I didn't do this correctly. A lot of people were like, wow, you're leaving it for that long, huh? And I didn't realize why they were saying that. As you leave alcohol yeast in enclosed bottles, it creates more alcohol the longer it is left to ferment. And I saw somebody last year when I was making mine, and this is how I planned it out, that from the beginning of spring to the next beginning of spring, you use and leave your mead, and then when spring comes around, it's like your celebratory drink. You go, okay, we made it through the harsh winter, the sun's coming out, it's actually pleasant outside, let's do that, and let's drink to that. And a year is too long. I used some Blanc yeast, so it's very white winey, not quite mead of what I was going for. But because I left it for a year, it's very alcohol-y. It still tastes good. Like there's one that's really good. It's actually decent. It's drinkable, but you shouldn't leave it for as long as I did. Now I know that, so I can do better. So I think probably leaving it for like 6 months instead of a year would be better, because it would have more of the sweetness of honey naturally without letting it just be consumed by alcohol. But I figured I would show you and kind of rate how the process went. I documented the whole thing in my scientific method, and then I am going to show you and taste test all of them and tell you which ones worked and which one really didn't. So let's go get the mead. Alright, I got my notebook. Let's go through what I did. On May 7th, 2020, I started infusing 22 ounces of clover honey with 2 cups of fresh washed dandelion flowers. I slowly heated them on the stove and then put them into a jar to sit for a few days so that the dandelions could infuse into the honey. And then on 5/11, I began actually brewing my mead. In a large pot, I put 1 gallon of water, filtered and distilled, with 1,000 milliliters of dandelion flowers. That's about 1 quart. So 1 quart of dandelions for 1 gallon. I brought this to a boil. Once it was boiling, I turned off the heat and I let the pot simmer for about 20 minutes. So in doing this, I had 2 different batches. So I had infused honey that had dandelion flowers infused in the honey first before brewing, and then I had honey that was just by itself, just to see how the flavors changed. In 2 separate batches, I had infused honey and non-infused honey, and from those 2, I used 2 different kinds of yeast for both kinds, so in total I had 4 different kinds of mead brewing. In all 4 of them, it was a quart-sized mason jar with a 1/4 of a gallon of water, 250 milliliters of dandelion flowers. That's only the yellow flowers. I took all of the greens out, which was a time-consuming process, but honestly, everyone said that the green is what's bitter, so wasn't dealing with that, so I took that all out. And then 22 ounces of honey for each of the jars, and then 1/2 gram of either Red Star Green or Red Star Yellow yeast. I strained all of these through a cheesecloth and then re-racked it on the 14th of May, and I left it to ferment. And then the plan was to re-rack this a few times, so that means going through, straining it through a cheesecloth into your cleaned vessel, and then you do that a couple times to make sure you're getting out any impurities, any extra remaining yeast, all of that. So after 2 weeks, I strained and re-racked it. After 4 weeks after that, I strained and re-racked it, and then left it to age for 6 months. And then after it aged for 6 months, strained and then bottled all of the liquid and let it age for an additional 5 months. I don't think I needed the additional 5 months. I think if I would have left it after the 6 months, it probably would have been good. But that still would have been in like December. So, I mean, I could have drank it then and celebrated that, you know, the sun would come back at some point. Maybe I could do that for like the winter solstice. That would be an idea for next year. But I have a note on the bottom that just says, upon completion, drink with friends to celebrate the last of the snow melting and the coming of spring. The problem with Wisconsin is that you can't really time that out very well. There was snow a couple days ago in April, and there was talk that there was still going to be another snowstorm before May hit. Not sure about that, maybe. When the snow melts the first time, it might not be the last time, so you just kind of work with what you got. But I figured I would show you my meads, and we drank it the other night, so I would give you kind of a overall 0 out of 10 review, because that's what we did. I had a bunch of friends over for Chris's birthday, because it was the other day, and we just had everybody try the mead, and one of them is really bad, and one of them is decent. It's pretty good, actually. Not what I was expecting. So, start from the bottom. You know what's funny? I accidentally shook one of them when I was re-racking and moving them, so I was afraid that was going to affect it, and I figured that was going to be the one that was really bad. That wasn't even the one that was really bad. So I unintentionally shook the Red Star Yellow non-infused, which ended up being the best one. So I guess shaking it doesn't matter. Or maybe shaking it does matter and it makes it better. Nah, we're gonna say no. So, from the bottom, this is the infused honey with the Red Star Green yeast. I said that it was a 1 out of 10. It's very sour, it's very bitter, it doesn't taste good, you just don't want to drink it. Like I said, you could get by if you needed to, but it's bad. And then we had a non-infused honey with red Green Star yeast. We gave it a 5 out of 10. It's a bit bland. It doesn't really taste like anything. It's the non-infused, so it doesn't have the extra added flavor of the dandelions. So, I mean, it's drinkable. It just is not enjoyable. It doesn't taste like anything. And then also a 5 out of 10 is the non-infused honey with the yellow Red Star yeast. It's semi-sweet. It tastes very much like a dry wine. It doesn't really taste like mead, but it's good. It's a lot lighter than the other ones, if you can see the color quality. It very much looks like a white wine, and that's how it tastes. So, I mean, as a white wine, it's good. As a mead, it doesn't really taste like mead. And then finally, I'm really proud of this one because everyone said that it was actually really good. We gave this one a 7.5 out of 10. Said that it was good. This is the infused honey with the dandelions with the Red Star Yellow yeast. So the yellow yeast was more of a champagne yeast, and the green Red Star yeast was more of a blanc. So I think using a champagne yeast next year will probably help to keep it a lighter flavor than the very dry white wine flavor that we got for some of them. But yeah, this one was really good actually. People liked this one the most. Alright guys, I hope you found this video enjoyable. I hope that you liked the atmosphere. The sun is finally coming back and spring is finally returning, and that's really exciting. I gave it a first attempt. I learned things. I understand now the purpose of certain things that I overlooked originally. And I'm hoping that as the years go by, I just get better at this, because Mead is really easy to make, and it's a very minimal process. It's cool to say, hey, yeah, I made that. So soon I'll be able to do that again this year, and I'm just gonna try and be better and better every year. Until next time, guys. Skål, my friends.